it does sound to me like you have a very passionate purpose, Ed, and I'm really grateful that you're here today to talk about it. And the more I get to talk to you, it's becoming really clear to me that you have a very purposeful and empowering story to tell. So let me properly introduce you, Ed. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm super happy that you're here. You have written a book called Life Letters. And in that book, you are bringing us alongside the alphabet, bringing us to wealth, wisdom, and remind me the last part of it again.
Happiness. Well,
Happiness, happiness.
how can you forget
How
happiness?
can
You
you
gotta
forget
remember that.
happiness? You see, we have a lot to talk about, and I'm really happy that you're here. I know that all of this started for you because of a near-death experience, and I would love for you to share that with my listeners. But why don't you start with kind of introducing yourself, letting them know who it is that I'm talking to today?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ed McCarthy. I am the author of a book called, book series, really, Life Letters, 5 Decisions to Wealth, Wisdom, and Happiness. And we'll get in more detail. But for a little background for me, born and raised in the United States. I was born in the Boston area and very humble beginnings, tough neighborhood, Irish immigrant, first generation American. Both my parents are from Ireland. Spent a good portion of my youth in Ireland, so I have strong European roots as well. But life brought me, 26 years old, brought me to Denver, Colorado, and some 30 years ago, to date myself. And I built a life here, married, children. Yeah, so I spent 28 years of my career in the IT technology industry. Everything I started off as an electrical engineer up to transition over from technology to sales VP level, senior executive to CEO. I've been CEO of several software companies as well. And I pivoted from there at the same time and became a real estate investor. So simultaneously, for the last 15 years, I've been an active real estate investor. And that's morphed into being an investor across almost every platform you can think of, from stocks, bonds to private lending. I have my own private lending institute where I fund deals that banks won't. And now I'm an author and coach on how to reach your highest self through optimal lifestyle design.
Mm.
So that's my background.
That's awesome. I mean, you have a very impressive background, and I love how, kind of like we talked introductory too, is that you are kind of on this mission where your purpose is to make sure that you are sharing your life stories and sharing your experience with other people as some sort of a legacy. It almost sounds like. Do you resonate with that at all? Being some sort of a legacy for yours?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, fundamentally, yes, it is, let's take a step back. I mean, I wrote this book series after near-death experience, which I can dig into a little bit more, but
Yeah,
very much
please.
so. If I didn't survive that incident, I had my wife, we had a 1-year-old son and a newborn daughter at the time. And what a tragedy it would have been if I died on during that incident.
Mhm.
And so very much so, it's legacy. So I wanted to share my experiences, my wealth, my wisdom, my happiness experiences for my children, and that morphed into a book series that I'm now sharing with the world. So very much legacy, trying to help not only my children but everyone learn from the lessons that I've had over a vibrant career and life experience.
Yeah. Wow. I guess now I'm deeply curious what led to beginning all of this, because I am sure that based on what you've told so far, that it was a very impactful time of your life when you had your accident. Why don't you share that with me?
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. So as I alluded to earlier, I live in still to this day in Denver, Colorado. And for those listeners, I'm sure all familiar, but home of the Rocky Mountains, right? So I spent a good portion of my time, as much as I can, really, in the mountains. I'm a mountain man, right? I just love it. So I was fortunate at the time. I thought a good friend borrowed 4 high-performance snowmobiles from his boss. And he called me and 3 other friends and said, "Hey, let's go for a ride. I have these sleds. Let's go for a ride." And I was really, if you're familiar with it, Winter Park Ski Resort in the Rocky Mountains. There's a back road behind it called Jones Pass, and we went up Jones Pass. It was an epic day. 3 feet of fresh powder just fell within the last couple of days. It was just amazing. Literally just on these sleds, going and staying on trail, and we had the powder just flying over our sleds and our heads. It was just an amazing amount of snow that was out there.
Mhm.
And we were 10 plus miles in, 4 hours into this ride, and we made a fateful decision. We said, hey, we should probably turn around soon and start heading home. But before we do, let's get off trail with our 4 sleds. You can imagine all 4 of us tandemly lined up, and said, let's go into this amazing open meadow. That is this large open meadow, and let's go fool around in there, have some fun in this powder. We'll turn around, we'll get back on the trail, and we'll head home. Seemed like a good idea. We're all on board. So I was the 3rd sled. The first one went off the trail. The second went off the trail. I went off. 4th one behind me, and we just pinned it as fast as you could go. And we're just racing across this really large open meadow, only to find out as we're cruising along, just out of the corner of my eye, racing these guys, the first sled dropped out of sight. Right. And it's like it dawned on me. I'm like, what just happened? By the time I registered, the second sled fell out of sight. And then boom, the next thing you know, this all happened within 2 seconds. By the time it processed, I went down. We fell into a crevasse, and all 4 of our sleds were, the 4th guy too, all 4 of our sleds were tail lights up, 10 feet down into a hole. And 500-pound sleds aren't so easy to move out of a 10-foot hole. And we were stuck, to say the least. We all got thrown off our sleds. We banged up our legs a little bit, hitting the front of the sled, but we shook that off. None of us were severely injured. We were limping a little, but we were stuck, right? And it was already about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, late afternoon, starting to get colder. Before I should have said, before we left, it was already sub-zero. This time it was probably close to 10 below zero. It was a very, very cold day, and here we were. So we laughed a little bit. We started to work and dig out our sleds, but the further we dug the sleds, the further the sleds fell into the hole, and it was just useless effort. So after an hour of working on our own sleds, we pulled our effort, and we tried to get one sled out, and that continued on for 12 hours. Now it's 4 a.m. and we are late stage hypothermic. We had no food, water, shelter, no cell phone coverage, no satellite phone. We had nothing, and we couldn't get out of the backcountry. And then a miracle happened. Truly, I'm a spiritual person, and divine intervention, which I still can't explain to this day. A father and son team that were hunting in backcountry happened to come over this hill that rolled down, right? And the son happened to be conveniently a competitive snowmobiler, right? And a 28-year-old kid came in, taught us that we were doing completely wrong. By the time we had that one sled out, we had the lightest and most experienced snowmobiler on the sled, and he was doing his best to be ginger and try to get out of there. And this young guy came in and did effectively the exact opposite. He got on the back of the sled on the handle that the passenger would hold on to. He had unbelievable skills. He just pinned it. He got the sled up on its rear end and did this zigzag motion, 50-foot wide zigzag motion, all the way back to the trailhead. Snowmobiling skills that we never even entered our mind to try that. And when we tried, I don't think we could have done it. So he continued to do that 4 times, saved our lives. We got out of there, and on my way home, sitting in the back seat behind my friend in the back, behind the driver's seat in the back seat, looking out the window, just staring at the dark, because it's still dark out. I had a revelation. I said, oh my, that whole time when I thought I was going to die on that mountain, I never really had any self-absorbed, self-centered thoughts about dying young. All I could think about was my 1-year-old son and my newborn daughter that my wife was at home with. And that's all that was on my mind. And it makes me, tears me up right now to this day. I get emotional about it, but I made it home. And I promised myself that I'm going to do everything I can to share my experiences. So I began to write. I began to write a letter, one letter, one page. That turned into 50, that turned into 500 pages. And that since has been broken into three separate books. And book one, tells you right here.
Yeah.
Book one, as you can see here, is called Life Letters, book one, and it's 5 Decisions to Wealth, Wisdom, and Happiness. And as you can see, this kind of, if you think Wizard of Oz or Yellow Brick Road or the streets are paved with gold, you can, a lot of people see it different ways, but ultimately the goal is to get to your highest self.
Yeah.
And that's what this book is about, is 5 Decisions to Wealth, Wisdom, and Happiness to reach your highest self through optimal lifestyle design. And I give you the roadmap exactly how to do that.
Wow. That is an incredible story, Ed. I'm from Norway and the winter here is so cold, and I'm just imagining how terrifying it is on like the 12th hour and you're still stuck. And I know how freaking yappy I get after an hour out in the snow if it's cold enough outside. So I empathize with that. Although I've never ever experienced anything remotely traumatizing as this, I admire your courage and I thank you for sharing it with us, because I certainly have a lot of questions. I understand how all of this catapulted this desire to be, because now you know how fragile life is and you get this understanding that I could have left this earth and not having told everything that I want to tell my children and my wife, and also just the acknowledgement of wanting to express that gratitude. I think that's really incredible. So I assume that a lot of the book has to do with this, but I can only imagine that in real time where you're in this situation, you're too focused on solving the problem that you're maybe not processing so much in real time how all of this is like how all this experience is affecting you. But what did the first couple of weeks after an experience like that look like for you?
Oh, it was a gratitude to a whole different level. And
Right.
it wasn't gratitude like you're, having a particularly good day. It
No.
was a whole new level of gratitude that I never experienced. I had a newfound gratitude for life, for my wife, for my children, for my blessings. And uh, and I think that gratitude would be the key word, and it has never left me to this day. I reflect on that moment all the time, and I get tremendous joy of sharing these stories with
Mm,
people, and it's transformed so many lives. The feedback that we're getting. We only released this book a little over 90 days ago,
mm,
and we have sales in 11 different countries with thousands of books and spreading all over the world. And the feedback that we're getting through Amazon, it's for sale on Amazon right now, but you'll have many different 5-star reviews and getting feedback from people on how this book has transformed their lives
mm,
and how much they find, and the various different letters. Again, 26 different letters, all on 26 different topics. Think of it as 26 chapters, but I just call them letters. And
mm,
that's kind of a play on word, because play on the word letter, because as I alluded to, the book series started with just literally a dad writing a letter to his children. That turned into 500 pages. And so it's a play on words with the alphabetical letters, A through Z,
mm.
but each one is a handwritten letter, if you will. Kind of think Benjamin Franklin, or think some of the sage people, Marcus Aurelius with Meditations, or one of the many's that poured their hearts into the best advice they can, and a sage a letter with the most sage advice that they can provide. So that's the premise of it. But gratitude was front and center, has never left me today, and I still feel that gratitude is the most transformational emotion you can experience,
Right.
because the benefits of gratitude are just tremendous, mentally, physically, spiritually. And everything is better when you're in a state of gratitude, and
Mm,
everything's gotten better since that near-death experience. Because gratitude, to me at least, made me realize that there's nothing missing in my life. That I have everything I want and nothing that I don't. So
mm.
so for me, gratitude is that's, if I give it away, that's letter G. Letter G in the book,
Yeah.
letter G, A through Z, is gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And that's gratitude to be one of the happiness letters.
Mm,
So we have to break it down. There's wealth, wisdom, and happiness, and all 26 letters break into one of those three topics. So there's
mm,
7 letters, chapters, if you will, on wealth, and there's 11 on wisdom transfer, and then there's 8 on happiness, right? And gratitude would be one of those 8 letters. That's, I would have to, if I had to pick a word after that, it would be eternal gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, gratitude is a great one. I definitely recognize the effects on before and after I started practicing gratitude journaling in my life. There is a very pivotal moment there because I think growing up, well, I mean, I think this is true for many of us. I guess it all is going to depend on what we've ever been exposed to, of course. But I grew up in a socialist country where at the end of the day, you're kind of taking everything for granted, especially if you haven't come to an age of comparison yet. So a lot of things are certainly been taken for granted. And especially growing up in a country where everything is more or less provided for you for already, you just know it's a part of the package. And you've grown up learning your life that um just being born in your country is a lottery ticket. Like that's the things that I would hear. So it took me a really long time to get into the focus of actually honing in on how lucky I am to have what I have and have the opportunities that I have. And it is a deal breaker. So I agree with you. Gratitude is a powerful one. um as you were talking, I was picturing the effect that it would have on your family when they're also learning all about what you're reflecting on. And since you were saying that the title of the book is The Pathway or the Roadmap Towards Your Highest Self, what did it look like when you weren't your highest self?
It's a great question. Well, it was a work in progress my whole life, and I still am, I forever will be. So when the path to your highest self is just that, it's a path, it's a journey, right?
Mm,
It's progressively getting better every single day.
yeah.
So before I was younger and just trying my best. I was relatively newly married and new father of 2 little babies, and that of course transformed my life itself with the responsibility of fatherhood.
Mm,
So that was a big paradigm shift, and that's what each letter and I think that's one of the most compelling parts of this book series is out of the 26 letters, 26 chapters, A through Z, each one starts with kind of a problem and solution, right?
mm,
Problem
mm.
solution. And the problem is identifying the problem is hopefully the reader is reading it and not in their head and going, yeah, this guy gets me. I have that
Yeah.
problem or that challenge as well. And what I call the solution is the paradigm shift, right? So it's a
Mm,
paradigm shift in mindset. And science defines paradigm shift as not just a new idea, but it's a better idea. It's a better way of looking at things. So you do a paradigm shift and you see things differently, and you change your perspective on how to address that problem that was identified in the beginning of the letter. So
right.
problem solution or letter paradigm shift has been really transformational, not only for me writing it and talking about it, but also for others that have been consuming the information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's lots of changes, lots of changes. So I've matured beyond comprehension, but I got a long way to go.
I do
So
love
we
that
all,
you're categorizing it as a journey, though, and not really. Because I think if there's one thing I've been battling is almost looking at the past and looking at a certain version of me and being like, oh, I didn't like that, or like kind of resent that version of me for accepting something I wouldn't tolerate today, for instance. And that's kind of a hard part. So I love how you're phrasing this as a journey and not with this that you're constantly growing and having learned more, having understood more, and not being shameful to the versions of you that didn't know what you now know, essentially.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm curious if you're willing to, and it's totally fine if you're not, of course. I'm sure people would be happy to read your book. I'm sure very curious about this myself. But since you're already saying that there's kind of 3 categories, and you've already said that gratitude is the one of the happiness ones, I was wondering if you'd be willing to share one from the 2 other categories as well.
Sure. I mean, okay. Well, let's say again, it's wealth, wisdom, and happiness. And
Hmm.
this conversation kind of went to the back of it with happiness, but wealth. Let's start with that, and then we can get into wisdom. All right.
Hmm.
But one there. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, but as a reminder, there's 7 different letters, chapters on wealth, 11 on wisdom, and 8 on happiness. So we could be here for hours going over all of them. But
Yeah,
but
right.
if I was to pick one under the wealth category, I would have to say career. Career, A through Z,
Hmm.
and chapters. C equals career, and because there's a tsunami. And again, we'll go back. I mentioned earlier, I was 28 years in the senior ranks and working for the large, being at the senior level, senior executive level at some of the largest tech companies in the world. And also I was an entrepreneur with CEO of several software companies. So I know the IT, I know the technology game better than most. So I speak from experience, right? This is not just pulling from news articles, this or that, but there is a tsunami coming. And it's already here, really, but it's going to come stronger with AI and
Right. Yeah.
AI with A, and that I'll throw it in the mix of, I'll just call it AI for terminology, but that includes artificial intelligence is AI for those aren't familiar with it. Artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, robotics, autonomous vehicles, which is a subset of AI, and there is such paradigm shifts going on within the global economy. Right? I mean, just in the United States alone, there are 3 million people that daily are customer service reps. And frankly, their jobs are kind of obsolete or soon to be kind of obsolete.
Right.
And that's then just that 3 million or 2.5% of all employed. Everyone, the 2.5% of the entire US employment is in as a customer service rep, right?
Yeah.
That's 2.5%, right? It's a large, and we know very confidently that the vast majority of them are obsolete in the coming years with AI technology, right?
Yeah.
I'll throw another one out. Like there's 8 million people that wake up every day and drive for a living, right? Just in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Just the United States, right? Just that's lorry drivers, truck drivers,
Uber drivers.
Ubers to
Yeah.
Lyft to anyone that's driving for a living, getting from point A to point B. There's 8 million in the United States alone, and that's some 6 or 7% of it's about 7% of the U.S. So just those two, customer service reps, 2.5%, approximately 7+% of drivers. With autonomous vehicles, we see it globally. It's not going to be overnight, but it's happening quickly. So there is such paradigm shifts going on in careers right now that many careers are just being eliminated now. And I think people need to be aware of it. So I talk in great detail about in the career letter, which is under wealth, is learn, and I try to teach you, learn how to stop trading time for money, right? Because the vast majority of people that get up trade time for money. And I don't care if you're making $20 or $200 or $400 an hour, it doesn't matter. There's only so many hours in the day that you can trade time for money, right? And it could be an hourly wage or it could be a salary, and you just divide that by 2040, and that gives you your hourly wage. And you're still working for an hourly, you're still trading X amount of hours for X amount of dollars,
Right.
across the board. That model doesn't work anymore. It has worked over the last 50 some odd years. It does not work anymore. You have to trade value for money, right? Not time, right? Time does not scale. Value does, right? And when you trade time for value, or you trade your time and you provide value, then it opens you up to have the freedom of time, right? You be able to the
Right.
flexibility of the freedom of time. So I get in great detail in the letter within C about stop trading time for money,
Yeah.
right? Start trading time for start trading value for money, and then ultimately you'll have the freedom of time. And another, like one subset of that is I try to teach what I've done, and I've lived it. This is not just theory. I've lived this. This is how I've built my career over the last 30 some odd years.
Right.
Is I separate the difference between entrepreneurship, and I introduce a new word that frankly I made up, but it's intrapreneurship, right? So
I like
entrepreneurship, right?
that.
Entrepreneurship, we all know you're an entrepreneur. You own your own business. You started your own company. Maybe you alone, or you did with a group of people, and you swing for the fences and you try to build something great with a new business venture. We all, for the most part, know what entrepreneurship is, but not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship. It's scary, it's risky. It goes against a lot of people's comfort zone.
Yeah.
Intrapreneurship is effectively an internal entrepreneur,
Right.
right? So an internal entrepreneur is taking that same entrepreneurial passion, that same entrepreneurial drive, but bringing it internally within an organization. So with the advent of AI, you're basically, and all these technologies, you basically have a choice, in my opinion. You can either put your head in the sand and hope that AI doesn't make your job obsolete.
Yeah.
That's an option. It's not a
Yeah.
good option, but it's an option. Or you can fully embrace this technology and learn to take that as an internal entrepreneur within an organization. Take the lead the charge, to be somebody that's doing paramount change within the organization, and then your value is clear, right? Your value is clear versus being a back office, process-oriented person where your value is very questionable with modern technology. So that would be one example
Yeah, it's great. I love this
of
example.
of wealth, right? And then we can
Yeah.
get into the other ones within wealth would be like, I won't read them all off, but there's 7 of them, but I talk specifically about money, and
Yeah.
then I have that's M equals money, but also we have W equals wealth, right? A
Yeah.
through Z chapters. But I separate the difference between money and wealth
Yeah.
because most people confuse the two. And they say, oh, I make a lot of money, I'm wealthy. No, you're not, right? Your money is what you make, wealth is what you keep. And that's the big distinguish between the two, because you can make a lot of money, right? But if you're spending at or more, or close to it, you're not wealthy. You're just treading water and hoping that job that you have that might be obsolete doesn't go away
Yeah.
in an unprecedented time. And never mind the job goes away, the whole entire industry might go away that
Yeah.
you're in, right? Like that completely. So the idea of just making money is a very dated concept. I transition the reader into learning how to build wealth by investing in your career, as I alluded to, entrepreneurship versus entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
but also within wealth is to buy cash flowing assets. Real estate would be the most obvious one. So I teach you not only why to buy real estate, but how to buy real estate and build assets that provide cash flow that you're no longer trading time for money. If you have enough cash flowing assets that are working for you 24/7, even while you sleep, then you do that enough times, which I have done myself in great detail over the last 15 years. Then all of a sudden you have cash flow and assets. So you're getting out of the mindset of going full circle, stop trading time for money, trade value for money, right? Stop looking at money as wealth, because it's not, right? It's the money is what you make, wealth is what you keep. Now let's focus on wealth, where you keep that money, and that has to do with assets, real estate being one of them. But I list 11 different asset classes, and we don't have time to get into all 11. But within the wealth letter, I get in great detail on how to build long-term wealth so you stop trading time for money.
Wow. I mean, as you're talking, I am completely imagine like I was thinking about like I need to make sure that I order this book and get it delivered in San Francisco so that next time I'm there, I have this book to read because I'm so drawn into what you're talking about. I'm like, I want to learn about all of this. And it's not like any of what you're saying is necessarily like brand new information or anything. It's just the way that you're articulating it and putting examples to it that leads me to believe that I can trust your source, if that makes sense. It's like I believe what you're saying. It sounds like you're coming from a place of having, like you said, using your own words, lived it. And
I've lived it.
and been in the industry for long enough to also observe how all of these things are tied together and how it impacts all of us. So now that you're doing what you're doing now, which to me seems like more of a purpose-driven mission, if I can call it that, when you were doing everything that you were doing prior to coaching and writing and stuff like that, how did you feel about what you were creating at that time compared to how you feel about what you're creating now?
Can I table that question? Because I never
Yeah,
finished the last part, because if as a reminder, I just don't want to leave those that are interested in this, I don't want to leave the listeners hanging, because we talked about happiness and then we went to wealth. But on the wisdom part, I'll just give you I'll shorten that much
absolutely.
short on the wealth part, because that was your original question. I just want to stay focused on that. I know, again, there's 11 different letters on wisdom, and I can again get in great detail on all of them. But if I were to pick one just off the top of my head, and it's the first one in there, is decisions, right? So decisions, people grossly underestimate their daily decisions, and they think, oh, I just decided to go to Starbucks and drop $7 on a cup of coffee, or I decided to go this or that. And all of those decisions impact your wealth, your wisdom, and your happiness, right? They're all tied together. Give
Right.
you a quick story. So one of the greatest decisions I ever made was one of the hardest decisions I ever made was living in Boston. I'm a 26-year-old kid working at Fidelity Investments as an engineer, an internal IT engineer, which I was spent 6.5 years there doing that. Phenomenal company, phenomenal experience.
Mhm.
And I had an opportunity to leave Boston, but I had to make a decision, right? A decision, right? Chapter D, to leave my comfort zone, to leave my family, and to try an entire new career, which is leaving corporate America, leaving the internal engineer role and go to sales consulting, right? And to go over to a consulting role. I had the technical acumen, but I've never been in the sales role. I've never been in a consulting role. I never did presentations. I never did live that life. But I had an opportunity that moved me out to Colorado, and I took that some 30 years ago. But that was a key decision of packing up my life and trying something new. And in each letter of the books, I think your readers will, or your listeners will appreciate that I tell a personal story on every single one of the letters, right? Every one of them, I start off with a personal story. And the personal story that I shared in and decisions was that transformation. And sometimes, I'm a big music buff, and certain songs kind of hit me, right? I don't really just love music, but I love lyrics. To me are poetry,
Yeah.
right? The right lyrics are poetry. And one of my favorites is Rocky Mountain High by John Denver. And if you're not familiar with that, the first lyrics start off with, he was born on the summer of his 27th year, coming home to a place he's never been before. He left yesterday behind him. You might say he was born again. You might say he found the key to every door. Right. So that's the opening line
That's a great
for Rocky
line.
Mountain High. Right. And that's the opening story of that letter, chapter D, decisions. And it sums up exactly what I went through. That was the summer of my 27th year. I turned 27 that summer when I moved to Colorado, and I left yesterday behind me. I was born again, and I found a key to every door. So I get in great detail about, for the listeners or the readers, to spend time really analyzing their decisions, not only the big ones, which would be like moving 2,000 miles across the United States, but the little ones on how you spend your money, how, controlling your thoughts, right? How do you control you are what you think. You are what you think. And if you're having negative thoughts, if you have negative predictions about your future, or you're pessimistic about your skills and your talent, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I try to teach within the wisdom letters how to have the courage and to make better decisions is just one of the wisdom. So we covered happiness, then we covered wealth, and that's what one letter in happiness, one letter in wealth, and now one letter in wisdom. But that's just 3 of the 26 letters that I encourage everyone to read.
I mean, I'm stunned. I think this is incredible. I'm so curious what the rest of them are. This is an excellent storytelling and drawing someone in, at least. So you're doing a great job marketing this book. I also kind of feel like you answered the question that I asked initially a little bit too, because it had to do with decision making. That was kind of the difference. It was the decision that had to be done and embracing it. And what it sounds like to me, based on what you're saying too, is that once the opportunity is presented to you, you're not afraid to take it, even if it means disrupting comfort that a lot of us are seeking, right? We just want to stay comfortable in our bubble. And sometimes it's scary to have to change one of the pillars of our lives, which is where we live, especially if our whole family is there too. But did your family end up moving with you, or did you have to be completely separated from them during that time?
No, I'm still separated from them, but I go back quite a bit to see family. So then again, my family, meaning parents and siblings
Yeah.
and lots of cousins. And we're Irish Catholics, right? So we got there's a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
It's a very large family. But no, everyone is either still in Ireland. About approximately a third of
Mhm.
family is still in Ireland. So we go back quite a bit. And the other 2/3 are in Boston. But no, I left 2,000 miles by myself. I didn't know a soul. I just had no idea what I was doing. I was in a long-term relationship with a girl. She was great, but my life went one direction, and she wanted to stay home. So that was another emotional decision. Was
Yeah.
I had to break off a long-term relationship. I had to change my career. I had to change my location. I didn't know a soul in Colorado at all. And but yet it was the right decision for me, and it was the perfect place. And then I don't know how many years, 6 years later, I met my wife, and now we have two beautiful children, and I am living my highest self.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like it too. I mean, this is an amazing story. I really enjoy listening to what you're sharing. And I mean, I have a similar story myself. I mean, I moved from Norway to the US, and I've also moved from Norway to live in Greece for 5 months. So I know what it's like to, yeah, uproot your pillar and leave to another side of the country or the world even, and just recognize that when you're moving, there's something to be said about the fact that everyone has a certain way of doing things where you arrive and it's not aligned with the rhythm that you've already had. And it's for the first time you're confronted with the fact that you have patterns and you have a rhythm, and maybe the new place just does not support that, and you have to meet yourself and get to know yourself in a completely new way, which is something that I've done myself and find to be freeing and liberating, because it's easier to reinvent yourself in that space. And I found it to be incredibly liberating to move to a new place and reinvent myself in that area and see what new sides of me emerge, and getting closer to myself somehow. I don't know if you experienced it that way, that you, well, I mean, it sounds like it because you're living your highest self. So, I mean, it definitely brought you on that path, of course, but maybe
Right.
other things than the accident itself was also partaking in you kind of finding this higher self too, which could have had something to do with the move, like itself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's the little things like, and those who are familiar with the U.S., the Northeast, Boston, New York, where, just very aggressive, very aggressive, and everything from the way we drive to the way we communicate to the way we try to do business. And it's almost like just very powerful personalities, very strong personalities. And I move out west to Colorado. It's more like Western Europe, to be honest with you. It's Things are slower, a little more chill. There's certain protocol you do. You got to build relationships more than just trying to, close deals in the first day. I even write in a story in one of the letters about, my aggressive driving tactics, right? And like that, like the red in Boston, it's just so common, and still to this day is, the light, the red light, or you're sitting in a red light, and again, it's not even green. It's just barely a shade of green. Like the light is just barely starting to turn green, and they're on their horns, like, go, go, go. What are you waiting for, right? So I still had those aggressive driving tactics and aggressive personality traits when I moved, and I just butted heads with. I had a bunch of conflict, and I said either they have to change or I have to change, and they're not going to. They're not going to change. So I had to change, and I changed for the better, and I became more relaxed, a more interpersonal person that just looks internal more. So I had to change my personality traits, my driving techniques, my business techniques, my communication techniques,
Yeah.
and it was all for the better. But it was hard. It was very hard. But I encourage anyone to just take the chance. Take the chance. And I always look at it as you can always go back. If you leave wherever your comfort zone is, try it for a year. It didn't work out. You can always go back,
Yeah.
but the probability of it working out is much greater.
Yeah.
And the probability of you getting closer to your highest self by taking chances goes up significantly.
I trust that that's true. I believe you on that. And you mentioned earlier that you're spiritual, and I'm a Christian myself, and praying and believing and having faith is a huge component of my life. And I don't really believe in coincidences per se, but I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I also believe that when we surrender and let go, and kind of let go and let God, which is, I suppose, a cliche, is also when
Yeah.
everything just works out just in time. Like maybe not coincidences, but just in time. Like when I got honed into the mindset of, but God is good. God is good. So if this is happening, it's for the greater good. There's a good reason for this happening. And just to ask that question, might it just be a good reason for everything that's happening? And also just trust that because we all want stability so bad, and we strive for stability, and we strive to minimize any future risk possible. Just think about all of the insurance companies in the world. I had a guest on my podcast talking about this, how we're all kind of living our lives based preparing ourselves for the worst possible outcome, as opposed to just trusting what tomorrow might hold. It even says so in the Bible, right? That tomorrow will worry about itself. And there's so much truth in that, that we don't really know what's going to happen. You didn't know that your accident was going to happen when it did, and God wanted you to continue to live to share your story. At least that's a narrative that one can have, right? And which is a beautiful and helpful one. But I'm sure a lot of us fall into the bad habits of thinking and looking for lack and risk minimization. Is that a word?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As opposed to looking
absolutely.
at everything that's actually working out.
Yeah, no, I believe, and it is a little cliche with let go, let God, but it's one of my favorite cliches.
Yeah.
And I think about it and I use it often. And even though, I've already shared with you that I was born and raised Catholic, and I'm still practicing Catholic. In fact, Ash Wednesday was yesterday. Is there any ashes on my
Yeah.
is there any ashes on my
Well, now I
forehead?
can see it, but I know it was Ash Wednesday. Yeah.
No, I was just kidding. I took a shower since then, but yeah, I'm still a practicing Catholic. And within this book, I want to emphasize that it is not Bible thumping at all. I don't even talk about Christianity or religion at all. I don't mention the word religion at all. It's not for me to dictate what people should believe.
Mm.
I am a believer, and I am a man of faith. And it's everything. I talk about the 7 F's, which I won't get into it in the book, but one of them is, a family and faith. Right? It is one of the 7 F's, and it's the 7 core components of my life, right? But they all start with F. And faith is a very core component of my being, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. Now, there's a difference between religion and faith, right? I mean, I think most people look to some form of spirituality, and you can define what that spirituality is. It could be Allah, it could be Jesus, it could be God, it could
Mm.
be, atheism. To me, atheism is a faith because you're believing in that there is no God, right? So that's there. You have a belief in something, even though if it's belief in nothing, right? By definition, is you have to believe in something. And I do believe, and it's little, it's believing something or you'll fall for anything, right? So you have to have your core direction, and I get a lot of mine from personal growth, but also my faith.
Yeah, faith is a great compass for sure. And I definitely found a lot of peace in just I heard someone say, and I've been quoting it a lot lately when people say stuff like, if you're living in a past, if you're experiencing depression, you're living in the past. And if you're experiencing anxiety, you're living in the future. Whereas when you're experiencing peace, you're living in the present moment. And I thought that
Correct.
was a very helpful guide. And I'm always in the back of my head then comes that scripture, don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow will worry about itself. And it kind of helps me calm and ground a little bit, and just look at, okay, if I do find these anxious moments, or if I do find myself looking a little bit way too much in the past and think of things I could have done differently, I try to hone in on that present moment and be like, what is it about this present moment that's beautiful? What am I grateful for today? Like, what is helping me have a greater outlook on how to feel better and calm my nervous system right here, right now? And it's helping. And gratitude, to kind of bring it back full circle, has been a huge part of that for me too.
No, you're spot on. I mean, I think to get on that path to your highest self that I talk about, being
Mhm.
present today is fundamental, and most people really struggle with it. They're wrapped up in the traumas of the past or the worries of the future,
Mhm.
and they're burning all this energy focusing on things they can't really necessarily change the past. If
Mhm.
someone hurt you, the only path to that is forgiveness. Right?
Yeah.
Just forgive them, forgive them for what happened, forgive yourself for the mistakes you made, and
Mhm.
start anew in the present. And as far as the future will take care of itself if you just focus on the present. So a
Mhm.
big part of the messaging within these 26 letters, because they're all interweaved into one final ending of the book, and I call that the lifestyle action plan.
Mhm.
And the lifestyle action plan is again, as see the book, it's the 5 decisions to wealth, wisdom, and happiness. But
Yeah.
the five decisions are defined in the after the 26 letters, the last section, the conclusion, if you will,
Yeah.
is the 5 decisions. And it's very much focused on being present, being focused on the present and what you can control, not what happened in the past, not what may happen in the future. So the 5 decisions really address the who, what, where, when, and how,
Yeah.
and why, and the why of how to get from where you are today to where you want to be, right? And where in that, and only you define what that is to get to where you want to be. I don't tell you what your highest self is. I don't even try to hint to you what your highest self is. Everyone listening here has a different definition of their highest self,
Yeah.
right? Some just want to get rich, some want to, have a family, some want everything, like me. You want a little bit of everything, right? So everyone has a different definition of their highest self. I don't try to tell you what it is, but I give you a 5-step methodology on how to get there on your unique definition of what your highest self is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And thank you so much for creating this. I'm really happy that you took your experience and made something valuable out of it and is sharing it with the world. And I admire that because I know that it takes a lot of strength and courage to do so. So I'm really happy that you're first and foremost that you've made the book and the creation, and that you're here to share it with me and with my listeners. So thank you so much for that. And I was wondering that, so I have a very important question. One is not so serious, more silly one, just to stroke my own ego. But the first one, it would be if there's anything that we haven't talked about yet that you would love to share with my listeners.
Yeah, I would just like to connect with them. Yeah, I can go on for hours on the value of the book, but perhaps I'll just leave it up to your listeners to come join us. And we'd like to be you to do several things, next steps, a call to action to actually do something with this information that you learned on this podcast. So our website is thelifeletters.com. And on there, you will find a link to purchase the book. And the book comes in 4 different formats, or all 4 formats. You got a hardcover, which people love to gift to others because it's a little better, higher quality. Softcover, we have the audiobook, which if you want to torture yourself and listen to my voice, I narrated for over 11 hours, right? And also the Kindle or the ebook version, So we have 4 different formats of the book. So whatever way you like to consume information, we offer that. So I encourage you to take a gander at the book. But as I alluded to earlier in this pod, I guess a main thing I didn't emphasize is the wisdom transfer platform, right? So the wisdom transfer platform is a free offering that anyone can join off of thelifeletters.com, right? And we also have a newsletter I'll go back to wisdom transfer. We have a newsletter. We offer a lot of free things, free downloads, a free newsletter that's bi-weekly, which is me building off of each letter every 2 weeks, but also the free wisdom transfer platform. So what's the wisdom transfer platform? The WTP for short, wisdom transfer platform, is my best effort to create a technology or methodology to be able to share globally everyone's wisdom. In other words, this book right here is my best effort to transfer my wisdom originally from, to my children. Now I'm sharing it with the world in a book series. And book 2 will come out in October, and book 3, October of 27. So this is just book 1. We got, same format, same 26 letters will come out, but they're just completely different letters, all addressing wealth, wisdom, and happiness. So we have a book series, we have newsletters, we have the wisdom transfer platform. What that is, this book is my best effort to transfer my wisdom, but I'm just one guy with one life's experience. And everyone listening has their own experiences, and they have so much wisdom. They're all built. And I don't care what age or stage you're in life. You could be an older a person, more seasoned veteran of life, and you want to share what you've learned in the past. Or you could be a young person that is just so much information that they want to share with their peers of similar age. You're in the 20s or 30s or so, right? Or middle, that people want to share their parental advice, their grandparents' advice, their career advice. So instead of just me being the one guy trying to share wisdom, I've provided a platform, the first one ever created, to have the world share their wisdom on wealth, wisdom, and happiness, right? And it's called the Wisdom Transfer Platform. So I encourage people to go to our website, thelifeletters.com. Under the community tab, there's lots of offerings, including the newsletter and other things, but including the first one is the Wisdom Transfer Platform. Come join us. It's free. You will see others sharing their wisdom on the topics of wealth, wisdom, and happiness. And we encourage everyone to share theirs. And it could be just something you want to share, or it could be a quote that's impactful on you. It could be a poem. It could be a lyrics from a song, as I alluded to earlier. I'm just a very big fan of beautiful lyrics. So whatever it may be, share it for the benefit of others, but it doesn't just benefit them, it benefits you by sharing that information, that wisdom, right? So really encourage that I'm hoping, doing my best to create a movement behind this, because I find it to be the humanity's greatest wasted natural resource is the waste of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Of knowledge, of experience. Why? Because what happens unless someone takes the time to document their life experiences, right? And either write a book, do a podcast, or there's a million different ways you can share your information for the benefit of others. Modern technology makes it very easy to do that today. YouTube video, whatever the case may be, but share it, share that information and share it often for the benefit of all of humanity.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. It's interesting for me to hear all of this also, because you obviously know what I told you before we got on the record about what my mission is, and we share a very similar mission. And I love that what I realize, and I'm sure you're realizing this too, is that the more you open up about your life experiences, the more you run into other people who are willing to do the same. And I think that's so beautiful with podcasting. I'm meeting more and more people every week that are like-minded people who have a great purpose, and sharing their voice is a part of that. And sharing your story can be so incredibly impactful. And something else that I've noticed too is that, because I'm in the process of writing my book and it's almost done. It's just kind of in these finishing stages of correction. But my point being, there's several times in the book where I'm using lyrics as kind of like a prompt to what that taught me or how that was helpful, or it could be Bible verses, etc. But we have a similar train of thought there, and I found that to be, I love seeing it when I'm talking to people and they're mentioning it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do that too.
I love it. Now there's so much wisdom to be found in good lyrics. It's
oh my gosh, yes,
it's
so much.
poetic.
I mean, it
True
can be soul crushing when you read in a lyric sometimes.
Indeed.
But in like a good way.
Right.
I'm so grateful that you came here, Ed. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful. There was one thing I wanted to ask you, but it's more silly than anything. So knowing that you came from Boston, are you into football at all? Are you a Patriots fan?
I am. Yeah.
You're a Patriots fan? I'm only saying that because I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan and we just won the Super Bowl.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Indeed. Congratulations.
I mean, you got your wins. You have like 100,000 of them. I mean, aren't you satisfied?
Indeed. And I'm a torn man, though. I've been in Colorado. I've been living in Colorado longer than I lived in Boston. So I'm also a Broncos fan. So
wow, that was quite interesting at the end there for you then. Wow.
I raised my kids as Broncos fans, but I'm a Patriots fan. So I'm torn. I'm torn in the middle there somewhere. So on the AFC Championship, I was very torn. So
yeah, I can imagine. That must have been that must have been tough. But it wasn't. I guess it was kind of an interesting game all the way up until the end, huh?
Yeah, well, our quarterback got a broken leg, so broken ankle, so that didn't help. So the Broncos quarterback.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So anyway,
what are you talking about? But yes, then I realized it was Bo Nix. But yeah.
Yeah, the Broncos quarterback. So anyway, that was the AFC Championship, but it was fun. It was a good contest. But yeah, congratulations, Seahawks fans.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, that was so fun. It was, I haven't always been into football, and I'm completely digressing right now, but football is one of those things that brings me so much joy. And it's one of those things that is probably a surprise about me too, that I'm such a football fan, but it was really fun to experience my first season ever of like an actual win, because I've been watching football for the last 3 or 4 years now. And this is the first year I'm experiencing we're actually winning the Super Bowl, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they're a good team. That was a
Yeah.
good team. Great defense. Great defense. Very good. Well, good for you. Welcome
Yes.
aboard the NFL.
Yeah, welcome aboard the NFL. Yeah, that's fun. Well, Ed, I really would love an opportunity to read your books. I will, of course, go and find that information myself. I will make sure to include all of that in the description so that it's included everywhere and people can easily access it. And from everything that I've heard you talk about today, I'm incredibly intrigued, and I certainly want to derive from all of that wisdom that you have and to build on it on my journey. So thank you so much for sharing and for being open, and thank you for being here. I'm really grateful.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hope to see you on our wisdom transfer platform. You'll find us at thelifeletters.com. Lots of good information there. Come visit us.
Awesome.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Ed.